Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. We're speaking with Crystal Jordan. She's the proud mother of an amazing son on the autism spectrum, and she's been working tirelessly on something pretty cool that's provided her son with some awesome results. She is one dedicated mama. Also, remember, if you're enjoying our podcast, if you could please take some time to rate and review us wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend. That's how we make our voices stronger. You can also find us as My Autism Tribe on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Welcome to My Autism Tribe, a community of advocates that are linked by autism but bound by strength. This is a time to find our sounding board and shoulders that help us carry life's load without the fear of criticism. We give and receive. We nurture and empower. I'm your host, Susan Scott. Most of us have been in those states of pure desperation, and likely many of us are still there, where we're working on the perfect formulas of therapies, supplements, and diets that will work for our loved one on the spectrum. Oftentimes asking ourselves, what if we do this therapy with this vitamin and eliminate this from their diet? What if we skip this therapy but go to this doctor? I literally have binders of information and spreadsheets that I've collected in our short 3.5 years on this autism journey. Some may have viewed it as an obsession, but I don't think so. I view it as dedication to make sure my son has the best there is, so that he can reach his full potential. I view it as love. Today's guest is Crystal Jordan. Her passion to provide help for her son is absolutely inspiring, and I can totally relate to the love she feels for her little one. Please welcome Crystal Jordan. Hey, Crystal, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Susan.
I'm really excited for you to share your story about your amazing son. Why don't you kind of start off with, how old is your son now?
So he is now 11.
11 years old. Okay. And when did he first receive his diagnosis?
We didn't actually get an official diagnosis until he was, getting ready to enter school. And so, that's something we kind of waited on. We saw everything that he needed and just kind of worked with that. And then when the time came that we had to get a diagnosis, that's when we did. But I'd say that his symptoms and signs kind of certainly came long before that, though. So
okay. Was the diagnosis easy to come by, or did you have to, or their waiting list for it? Because I know that that's something that we struggled with in our journey to getting the diagnosis.
Right. Yeah. No. I think it was honestly a matter of weeks, and we had him tested here at the University of Utah, and it was just the woman who did it, actually a couple of women. They were just wonderful. They made it a really pleasant process, and so, there was no significant wait process. I would imagine that now, autism is ever growing, so I would imagine, now I'm sure wait lists are really long. What's been your long?
Yeah, well, we received our diagnosis in the state of Illinois, and we're in Kentucky now. But there were a lot of kids and very few places that would really give the diagnosis. And so we went to Illinois Masonic Children's Hospital in Chicago and received the diagnosis, and then we're kind of just set on our journey back home saying, okay, well, we needed to have the intensive ABA therapy and then speech and occupational, and so then we were on waiting lists to receive that therapy. So there were just a lot of waiting lists, a lot of frustrations, and that's a really, really painful process to go through because someone's telling you that something's wrong with your child and then no one's there to help them. So it was one of those just painful parts of the journey with a lot of desperation and a lot of darkness, and then still we are experiencing some desperation at certain points. I wouldn't say that we are having dark days every single day, but there are certain challenges that we're constantly dealing with. So what were some of the signs that you were receiving, like right along the very beginning?
Yeah, well, I'd say, he was our firstborn, and so that was all just this wonderful flurry of excitement. And he was perfect, just this beautiful baby. And I would say our very first sign at all, looking back now, was his sleep, it was totally and completely upside down. We did everything we were supposed to do, lights low, don't talk to your baby, all that stuff. And it's still just, he would sleep for maybe 2 to 3 hours at a time, and that went on until he was about 3 years old. So it was, it was painful, and there were definitely dark days in there. So, my laundry room was really clean because I would stay up all night just doing something to keep my sanity. So, so I would say that was the first. And then definitely the next biggest one, which was huge, was his gross motor development. And it was just a matter, it was really just one thing compounding onto the next. And I vividly remember those, going into those baby checkups, just feeling so ashamed that my firstborn, was not meeting these milestones. He was late to lift up his head and therefore late to roll over, and then it just compounded, and he didn't walk until he was 2. And so that qualified him for physical therapy. And so, we'd have them come in, maybe 30 minutes a week. It wasn't much, and I can't say that it did much for him, but, it was nice to have, an advocate, if you will, there in the home. And anyway,
Sure.
But so the physical, the gross motor was huge. And I have all these pictures of him as a baby, and he's doing these, straight leg, straight arm stems at the time, just thinking, well, it's kind of bizarre, but that's his thing,
Yep.
But now, definitely those were just these little stems coming from this little guy, and later they grew into really big stems from a bigger guy. So, so those were early. And then, what kind of turned into, these developmental and, mild, things that he was missing, his health started to kind of, deteriorate as well. He had some major digestive issues even when he was really little. I remember going to the store and buying these little baby child suppositories, and that seemed like such a bizarre thing to do, something I never thought would ever be a problem.
Sure.
But definitely doing that, digestive issues were definitely present. And despite what I felt we were doing right, we know where diet went, keeping it fairly balanced, following that food pyramid, as closely as we could. And so, eventually he was almost 4 years old, well, probably about 3.5 years old. We just started seeing things like he lost that, that vibrancy that in skin color that a child should have, anybody should have. And, he started getting these kind of dark circles around his eyes, and, just various things. And the digestive problems, they were constantly, and they were changing. We'd go from constipation for a few months, and then it would switch over to diarrhea for a few months, and then it would just be totally weird for a few months. And so that was a major theme we were dealing with. And also, his communication wasn't really there either. He would, going back now, I realize we could have gotten a diagnosis for him being hyperlexic, because, he would read a word and then he would point to the picture. So he was making that sort of a connection.
Yeah.
There was no verbal coming through. And so we started, doing sign language and things like that. But, so the kind of the final straw for us that brought us to this journey that we've been traveling within autism was he was almost 4, and amongst all of his other, health issues that we were seeing, his fingernails, were peeling from the top down, which sounds bizarre if you can imagine what that looks like, but it was horrifying because it's so wrong, it's so bizarre, and so you see something like that and you know that there's a major internal issue. And he had been on a lot of supplements. I mean, we had done, like most autist, parents of a child with autism, or at least try to want to do, is we'd done all the therapies. We'd done them all. We even did, genetic testing and supplementing for those results, and so it was massive, and it was very expensive, and so we were doing all of those things, and still he was having all these problems. So I vividly remember the night and just going down this Google rabbit hole. And just researching diet and its impact on autism and all the different kinds of diets. And then it was like this, the heavens open and there's light beams, and it's just, it was what it felt like in my head. And I realized that diet was it was exactly what we were looking for. It was this missing piece for him. And, he was totally sensory sensitive. There were only a couple of foods that he was really willing to eat. I vividly remember these rice chips that he would just love, and like the totally creamy vanilla yogurt, whatever. So those were his go-tos, but those were not going to be approved on this diet that I had culminated from all of this research. So but it felt so right. So honestly, like the next day, and I'll add, we had been GFCF for a really long time. I think we did it for like 6 months, and it just didn't work. And so then we took a break, and then I was like, well, let's try this again. So then we did it for probably another 6 or 8 months, and it still just didn't do anything. So anyways, but after finding all this information, the next day I just cleared out the pantry and I prepped some foods that I thought I could even remotely get him to eat, which at the time was some like boiled chicken with some, really soft boiled carrots and celery and some spices, and just threw that in a blender. Yeah. And some applesauce, and homemade applesauce, no sugar, and I probably bribed him to eat it all with some grape juice or something. So that's what we did, and I made him a visual chart, and I think that was really important for him is that communication factor, that he kind of was able to get what we were doing and why we were changing things. And it also is like a little menu where he could place pictures. I had Velcro strips on there. He could place, I want apple something for breakfast, a banana something for lunch. And so it gave him that element of control and that visual element too. So that was honestly a really important piece.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was. It was very cool. I remember it being a huge helpful tool. So anyways, but I was committed, we were committed, and so we stuck to it. And I think the thing that kept us going is his digestive stuff almost immediately cleared up. I think it was a matter of like a couple of days.
Wow.
Before we started seeing just normalcy there. And then the skin color slowly started to rejuvenate, and what was just the most baffling was within 2 weeks, this nonverbal child, he started putting together 3-word sentences, which was just so insane.
Wow.
And it spoke to, he'd been collecting this information. The fact that it was more than just one word, this was information that he was collecting. And it was like this diet was finally allowing him to unlock this vault of information that was in there, and it was just outstanding. And so that was all we needed, and we were 100% on this particular diet, which was, now looking back too, it's very similar to a paleo diet. So it's founded on the major food groups being lean protein and fruits, vegetables, and healthy fats. So we did that for years and years, and we never looked back. And now he's able to eat more normal, but we don't have the symptoms that he had before. We just hadn't even seen those. So yeah, it's been incredible.
That's a great point. You started mentioning, the skin vibrancy, dark circles around the eyes. I know when Alex had really started eliminating foods from his diet, it was a scary thing, as a parent, to watch your child start eliminating foods, because that's one of your duties as a parent, is to feed your child. And I think it was around Halloween time. We had this little Halloween thing at my work, and Alex came, and I took this cute little picture of him. And of course, we see him every single day. This is what Alex looks like. And I sent this picture to some family members, and one of the family members texted back, "Oh, he's so cute. Is he sick?" And I was kind of taken back by it, because he wasn't sick. Like, he didn't have a cold. He didn't have allergies at the time. But the more and more I looked at this picture, I thought, you know what? He looks tired. He doesn't look well. And I thought, well, a lot of that has to do with the diet, I'm sure. But when you say clearing out the pantry, that just puts every fear inside of me. It really does, because oh my gosh, I'm like, there are days where I feel like I'm sustaining his life with Chex Mix. And so it's like to do something like that, and of course you would have to have everyone in the family on the same page, because if the Chex Mix is still in the pantry and your child sees it, then they're going to want that. But to completely clear out the kitchen, that's a daunting thing. So how did you guys have like a family meeting saying, okay, this is what's going to happen? Or did you just go rogue and go in the kitchen and just start throwing stuff away?
Oh, I'm just like, let's just do this. If I decide to paint the house is I'm just going to go to Lowe's, I'm going to get a can. It's just happening. So, so I guess maybe my functioning that way is part of it. But yeah, I don't know. I think my reaction to like, oh my gosh, this is what he needs. It was so powerful at the time that it was on. So, I mean, I think I don't even know. I don't even remember clearing it with my husband. I think I just went for it. So, and I honestly think in all of the people I've ever talked to about this, getting your family on board, or caretakers on board, is the hardest part of it. I think even above and beyond getting your child on board, I really think just getting a spouse or a grandma, grandmas are the worst. Grandmas are the worst. Oh, sure.
Here's some cookies.
It's
cakes.
fine.
Here's a ho-ho.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that is definitely the hardest. And, I mean, my advice to that is, it's better something, if they're, I mean, the whole idea of the diet is you're setting them back to a homeostatic point. So you're relieving them of the stress of having to work with these different types of foods that are maybe bringing inflammation, or their body is not at that time able to properly digest and to utilize the nutrients in those. There's just a lot of elements to it. So, but you're eliminating that stress, and you're bringing it all down. The idea is, if you do have a ho-ho or something like that, you are setting back that healing process, but it's better than nothing. It's better than this continued day after day, Cheetos, because that's all I can get them to eat, or, Eggos for breakfast. So things like that, I always say it's better to start somewhere. You don't have to go rogue and just, because I think that is asking a lot, and it's not in everybody's, that's honestly like a personality thing. I think a lot of people need to plan, and they need to kind of ease into it, and that's okay. So, I mean, I always say it's just better to start somewhere And
Yeah. It is. I've often wondered, and we've done a lot of, I call them food trials at the kitchen table. Like, okay, for 1 week, we are working on corn, where there's a piece of corn on the table, and then it moves to the plate, and then he licks it, and then he smells it, and then all of these just really kind of ABA therapy trials. We've had really great success with some foods, and then other foods, primarily in the vegetable department, we are really still struggling with. And so, but as far as the fruits, I mean, I always laugh about it because I should have bought stock in Hatchimals at the time, because those were his positive rewards, and they got him to eat blueberries and blackberries and strawberries and raspberries, all of these just really bright, colorful fruits, and still eats them to this day. And those are probably his favorite foods, but he still has corn dogs. He still has, just the fish sticks and Chex Mix and stuff like that. So I feel like we're on the right track, but there's still so much work to be done. When you were sharing with me kind of offline about all of this work that you've done, and I know that you even went back to school to learn more about this on your journey. You started compiling all of this information that you had learned, either by school textbook, by the research that you had done kind of on the paleo diet way and all of that, and you started compiling them into, I don't know what you would call it, but I think it's fascinating and so helpful, into this website. It's called Foods for Thought. Foods and then for FOUR thought. And I have to say that you have made it really easy for a lot of people to kind of go there and get information, even down to like certain recipes and stuff like that. And then even a detailed step-by-step process to walk people through what you did and what has proven to work for your son. Can you share a little bit about that process and what kind of how Foods for Thought all started?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, being on the diet, it honestly felt like a part of life. It was just a part of our life. It was such a big element, as much as autism was, this diet was. So, and at first, that's hard. But it just became part of life. It was just the way we functioned. We brought food to family events, and it was okay. I mean, that probably sounds totally bizarre and totally wrong to some people, but it was awesome, and it was fine. And anyway, so
I think most of us are used to bringing food places anyway.
True. Yeah, absolutely. So it was one of those things I needed to do something with it. Yeah. So I went back, especially because it had been so impactful for him. I felt this mission to share it on some type of a platform. And so, I went back to school to see if I could gain anything else. And I mean, nutrition still follows pretty closely to traditional nutrition. Milk is the best source of calcium, and we understand now almonds are a better source of calcium. So things like that. But maybe they've changed the textbook since a few years ago. But yeah, so I went back and I got that degree, and that was really great, very rewarding. And part of my graduate project was actually doing research into elements surrounding the diet that I did for my son. So different, and it was just really fascinating, and further, verified why it was so successful for my son. And so, it was like a 70-page research paper. So I had compiled all of this information, and it was very cool. And so then, just recently on it, the whole Foods for Thought, it's been this ongoing thing I've just kind of been working on off and on, and just writing down the recipes that I can actually get my family to eat. And, because we still struggle, it's not perfect. And so just compiling those and putting them on this website. And then just very recently, I created an e-course, and it was just really short videos, one after the next, where caretakers can follow it and they can apply the lessons, and it's very exactly what we did, for the most part, and trying to make it as tangible as possible. And so that it was a labor of love. It was something I just had to get out there and hopefully, impact somebody in the way that we were impacted. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's why a lot of us start kind of the journey that we're on. I know for me, when I started my Autism Tribe, it was because I wanted to provide that support and empowerment that I was looking for on our journey. And so I think when you have that passion like that, and of course the success stories that you've had, that plays a huge part in just keeping that drive going. I think it's just completely amazing. You're so inspiring, by the way, because a lot of people get stuck kind of in that desperation mode, and that's okay to stay there for a little bit. That's completely normal, and dare I say even healthy, because we do need to experience those emotions. But what you did was you literally turned your life, your family's life upside down for a brief period of time, knowing that if you're just going to do it, you're going to go all in, you're going to see if it worked. And when it did start working, you just kept going. And I think that's just truly amazing. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. That's very, very nice.
Yeah. Well, I am going to include the website. I know you're on Facebook and Instagram, and the Foods for Thought. Again, that's for FOUR, thought.com. And I want everyone to go to the website to check out, some of those things. The online course, I know, is going to be really beneficial for people, because especially people like me, I'm limited on time. We all go down that Google rabbit hole of just information. And again, kind of what I'll reiterate what I said before is that you've essentially compiled all of that information into one place, down to the recipes that people can use. And so it's really a step-by-step process. Instead of having to go and dig, you've already provided that information. So it's really cool. So I want everyone to check that out. Is there anything else that you'd like to just tell people?
One thing that I think struck me a few years ago is that I wish, again, my son he's 11, and so I feel like we've had some time to, again, like autism is part of who I am even. And so,
sure.
But, I think it's important, especially if you have a really young child, and you're in the early stages of all this. I think it's just, autism, it's kind of a wonderful thing, to be honest, and it's not an illness. And even what I did with my son, we didn't cure autism. I mean, he still is autistic.
Yeah. We
just brought him to that maximum level of health and function where he can be his best. And so I think because I've been there, maybe most people are better than I am. I don't know, but you get wrapped up in this idea of I need to get rid of this autism, and it's it's a neurodiversity. I really do believe in that. I think autism's always been around. For one reason or another, it perhaps is just more prevalent today. But I think it's so important to find those beautiful elements within even. It can be really hard for certain people, I understand, but yeah, I mean, we're not on this journey to cure, but we're on this journey to kind of to maximize and to bring them health and happiness. And so that's kind of my final statement in all of this. So.
Just have them reach their full potential.
Yeah.
And I know on the days where I feel kind of crummy, like, my stomach is feeling kind of crummy or whatever, I'm not running at my best.
Right.
And maybe in my best isn't someone else's best. That makes us human. But you make very valid points. We're not in it to cure. We're just in it to make sure that they reach their potential. And that's a beautiful thing. And that takes a lot of support from parents and caregivers and the community and everything. So thank you for doing your part and for also providing that information to help others.
Yeah, thank you, Susan.
Sometimes those states of desperation can provide us with information or insight into what our children or loved ones need. It takes time, dedication, and patience, but it's all so worth it. So never stop trying, always have hope, and dig deep. I believe in everyone. Keep up the great work, and thanks for being a part of my Autism Tribe. I'll see you next week.